All right, this is my strings presentation on the double bass. So, what is the double bass? We are one of the biggest instruments in the string family. We follow after first the violin, the viola, the cello, and then the double bass. And even after that, there are some bigger instruments like the harp. We have various names for the same instrument. Um, and from at least my experience, I think the names of the instrument just kind of depends on the genre or style that you're playing. Typically in orchestral settings or concert band settings, you're going to hear people will call it string bass or the double bass. um, Sometimes in jazz they will call it the upright bass, and then in some parts in Europe and some like Germany and Russia, they'll call it the contrabass. Um, it is tuned in fourths. So our lowest string is going to be the E, and then we go to the A, the D, and the G. And this varies because the cello is tuned in fifths, and some of the other instruments are not tuned in fourths. And this is just because of the string length and kind of the mathematics that go into the bass. The capabilities. There are many capabilities that the string bass has. Most importantly, it's capable of providing choral and harmonic balance in a band and orchestral settings. Also, it provides rhythmic structure. Many times in pieces, we will get our parts will be what emulate in the percussion section, whether it will just be honing on just playing one note, or it'll be on an arpeggiated rhythm. um, at times it can present themes in orchestral settings, but that is not too often. um, but lastly, I personally think that the capabilities of the bass just lie in the hand of the composer and whatever you're going to write, in whatever you're kind of searching for and looking for in the piece. Um, and at this time, I'm going to show video. So this piece is by Giovanni Bottesini. It's called Elegy in C major, and this piece just shows some of the soloistic features of the double bass. All right, we're gonna stop it right there. I could listen to the whole piece. I feel like it's very beautiful. Um, yeah, so that just highlights that piece, highlights just some of the soloistic features of the bass. Of course, you wouldn't really see too much of that in an orchestra setting. So limitations. Probably one of the biggest limitations is the range of the double bass. We kind of sit at a middle ground of where our lowest in standard tuning without an extension or a fifth string, just normal four strings. Um, we the lowest note that we can hit is going to be the I think it's an E2, which is one E right under the ledger line. Um, and we can hit some of the high registers of the tuba, but we can't really go too low in Our range doesn't really go as high as obviously like a violin and a cello, so we sit in the middle ground of kind of what we can and can't do. But um, it's just using the instrument to its strengths. Like I said, it's not typically used for introducing melodic themes, just because of the natural timbre of the instrument. At least in an orchestra, it's not used as a solo instrument in orchestras. So things to keep in consideration when writing parts or arrangements for the double bass. Like I had mentioned, something to keep in consideration is just your range. Like I said, sometimes you can, in professional orchestras, there will be people who have extensions who can make their bass go down to a low B, but that's not normal in a high school setting. So your lowest range that you can go is going to be an E2, which is the ledger line under the bass clef, the first ledger line. And then you can go up to a G4, which is really, really high, but that's not normal. Most commonly in high school, in college, some early college settings, obviously, if you're going to get into more professional pieces, the highest you're going to be going is going to probably be middle C or C4, which is the first letter line above the bass clef. And that's just most, because that's where most people are comfortable. In high school, people only usually do sometimes one scales, so they are most comfortable above, just staying within the staves. I think another thing to keep into consideration when I've been given the opportunity to write my own parts is less is more. We can get carried away if we're writing parts just individually for the bass and make sometimes these intervallic leaps and think, oh, this is cool. And then when we hear it in the context of everything, it can take away from the piece, mostly just because that's not usually what the bass's role is. Um, doing some more leaps and stuff like that usually will sound better and be presented better in a higher voiced instrument. So sometimes it's just important to remember that less is more on the string bass. And lastly, typical role in literature. The most typical role of it is it comes from its name. It doubles the bass. In some early Bach music, that's kind of why the bass was primarily used for, was to double what the cellos played, and cellos sometimes play or usually play in bass clef, so they double the bass of the cellos. And we play an important role because we just provide more bass structure than the cellos do. But we don't always play what the cellos play. Obviously, like I'd mentioned, the cellos have a much higher timbre and can go up at a higher or higher range, and they have a lot more soloistic features compared to the double bass. And the bass also, like I mentioned, provides harmonic and melodic balance, especially in cadence and dynamics, and at times can be used to introduce themes or closing themes. And at this time, I'm going to show you one more piece. Let's see. So this piece is from the Fusa Philharmonic, which actually takes place here at Fresno State, and this is the Shostakovich Symphony Number 7, and this is the closing theme where we have the basses and a lot of some of the cello low bass instruments that are reintroducing the closing theme, and it just kind of shows the awesome capabilities that you can with orchestrating stuff well, how it can come out. All right. Pretty awesome, pretty cool music. So, just in conclusion, I would say probably the most important thing to remember is you never want the bass to get too much in the way of what's happening in a melodic or in the harmony and the melody sense of things. Um, you kind of I would consider the basses to be the unsung heroes. We're sometimes never really in the spotlight, but what we do is always important and never goes by unnoticed. So I hope you just keep some of these things in consideration and this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, I will be checking on the discussion post and answering them to the best of my abilities. Thank you.